Welcome to Unleashed with Eva Melton, where we unleash spiritual principles for victorious living.
Hey everybody, this is Pastor Eva of the Firm Foundation Church in Avondale. I'm in the studio today with one of my clergy brothers and one of my someone I really look up to, Rev Hamlin, and he pastors Tabernacle Baptist Church in Smithfield. Rev Hamlin, how are you today?
I am so well, and thank you so much for having me. I've watched your program and listened to it, and I'm glad to be a part of it today.
Yeah, I'm glad that you're here. I want to remind everybody that this episode is sponsored by Clifford Melton of Keller Williams Realty. So if you're looking to purchase a property, go ahead and give Cliff a call. You can find out his phone number on his website, cliffordmelton.com. So first, before we go into some of the questions, Reverend Hamlin, I want you to tell our listeners how they can find out more information about you or about the church online.
Tabernacle Baptist Church, tabernaclebirmingham.org is our website, and we try to keep it as current as possible with up-to-date information. So that's a good place to start. I also work at UAB, at UAB's 1917 clinic, which is our outpatient HIV clinic. So just Google my name, and it pops up wherever I am and what I'm doing.
Awesome. And so I Googled you earlier this week, and I was like, do I know? No. Really what to ask him. I think I know. I thought I knew, and I felt like I did. So it seems like just on one of these natural interviews. And so I have been focused on, with my last few guests in this season, on divine purpose. I believe that God created all of us, not just clergy, not just pastors, with a purpose in mind. And that purpose is literally what connects us to the larger community and to the larger universe. And that once we know our purpose, we kind of know how to navigate the domains we're in already. My question for you is, what do you feel your divine purpose is?
Well, initially I thought it was going to be my last year of senior high school, going to college. So, okay, I wanted to become a clinical psychologist. So that's where I started off. And then the end of my freshman year, midway freshman year, nothing was going right in terms of studies and where my mindset was. And I really had a good understanding, okay, God, I know you're calling me to do something, but I'm not sure what. And I knew it was related to serving and being with people, but again, not sure what. And it really was just finding some quiet time, some quiet space to think and to reflect and just say, okay, what I'm doing right now, where my head is right now, is not working. So obviously to me, that was not where God wanted me to be and where he was pushing me to go. And so when I got a clear understanding, I grew up in the church, always been in the church, but when I got a clear understanding, I said, okay, Lord, I think I hear you now. And that it was a call to ministry. Wow. And to affirm that. And it was so fun. I was in Atlanta at Morehouse, and I ran to the phone to call my pastor in Macon, Georgia. And my pastor was in Atlanta at Pascal's Motel, which was like 2 miles away from Morehouse College. And I got on my feet and started running toward Pascal. And just as I got there, Reverend Evans was getting in his car ready to get back to Macon. And we went into the hotel and sat down and talked. And he said, Chris, I've been waiting on this. Wow. And sometimes I think people have a good understanding of what we ought to be doing, and they may not share that with us. Right. But wait for us to get to that point where it becomes clear for us. And that was the affirmation for me. And of course, when I affirmed it to my community, my family, everybody was going to say, I knew this was going to happen. Yet we were just waiting. You know, you had a little old lady saying things to you. You said, no, that's not me. But it was just an affirmation. And I think that's one way we know God's divine purpose for us. We affirm it. God affirms it. And then I think there are others who are close around us, our close-knit family and extended family who have watched us grow and develop and mature. They somehow affirm it as well. And that's, I think, is a good indication, okay, I'm where God wants me to be. Right. I think you're right with that. I think other people kind of come along and affirm and confirm what God has shown you, because I remember, for me, it was almost a breaking point. Like for me, when I really accepted my call, like literally I was already in seminary. And I felt like it, I knew, but it was almost like God had to be very confirmed for me several times. This is where I need you to do, where I need you to go. And I remember when I called, my dad was traveling to some Baptist convention, and it was like, he was like, okay, me tell him, okay, like, why are you crying? Yeah, absolutely.
And I felt like, for me, like you said, that my entire life experience have been preparing me for ministry. And then even for pastoral ministry, I even look at some of in the small space that we are in, from a church, the Firm Foundation Church, some of the things that I'm seeing that I innately know how to handle because of just being in a pastor's home. My mom was a pastor's daughter, and just the things you saw.
Right.
That no one could have taught you, but I still pick up the phone sometime to get confirmation from him. Like, hey, am I doing what you need?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Pray for me.
Absolutely. And he does. Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, that's so beautiful. And so let me ask you this. So you have this divine purpose, this purpose to ministry, to serve others, to lead and to guide others. What different domains have you seen that express itself in?
Well, remember, I said that my goal, I think when I went to Morehouse, was to become a clinical psychologist to help people. And what the Lord clearly showed me was, even in ministry, I mean, you're helping people.
Yes.
And that became just a good way of pastoring for 10 years at 16th Street Baptist Church, reaching a point where, okay, I've done what I can do here. It's time to move on. And I left 16th Street with absolutely nothing, no plans, no job offers, and was grateful that the then president of UAB called, who would occasionally visit 16th Street, and she wasn't there that Sunday. I resigned, and she said, I understand you resigned from 16th Street yesterday. I said, yeah. She said, well, do you have any plans? I said, no, Dr. Reynolds, I don't. She said, can you come talk to me Wednesday? I said, I'd be delighted to. No plans. Did you call? Yes, I'm on my way. And she offered me a position as assistant to the provost to direct arts education program. And that was part of my high school background, played in the band and arts education. And it was, again, say, okay, how can I bridge this to make it meaningful, not just for me, but for the teaching artists who were involved in the program, as well as for 2 pilot schools here in Birmingham. And it became one of the best experiences I've ever had of those 2 years of just spending time with teachers, working with Birmingham Birmingham City Schools, and also working with teaching artists in the city of Birmingham, and just spending time with them as they cultivated a program that focused on how can we help kids learn using the arts. And it was a wonderful way. So you're learning math by learning art. Yeah, you're doing it.
Wow.
And it was just a wonderful 2 years. Then got called to Baptist Church of the Covenant.
Really?
A wonderful church.
I did not know that.
They were without a pastor, asked if I would serve as interim. And when I left 16th Street, it was like, I don't want to have anything to do with church. I don't want a pastor ever again. And when they called, I said, okay, I can do this for how many months? And the initial, I think, was like 3 to 4 months. Ended up being a 9-month call. But it was one of the most healing parts of my life. It was like they restored my faith in ministry and in pastoral ministry. So I was there for 9 months until they called their pastor. And then Tabernacle called and said they were without a pastor. Reverend Davis had retired after 26 years and said, can you come serve as an interim for us? And I said, I'd be honored to. And again, how long? And they put the timeline. And then a group of older members said, can we take you to lunch? And it was like, these are the mothers of the church. And I knew what they were plotting and scheming. Said, we just want you to pray about staying on and becoming our pastor. And I had to wrestle with that because my thing was, I don't want to be in a pastoral position anymore. But clearly, and when I have to make major decisions, I typically go to some body of water. And I went down to Gulf Shores and just walked the beach early in the morning and at sunset, and just got a clear understanding, okay, Lord, what is it that you want me to do? And the Lord clearly said, this is what I want you to do, And I think when we understand what our purpose is, all the doors that need to open, they open.
Oh, my goodness.
All the doors that need to stay closed, where God said, this is not where I want you, they stay closed.
Oh, my God.
And all those doors open. And it's just been a wonderful experience. I had, there's another piece of that purpose was, in the early 1990s, I had 2 good friends who died from HIV, died from AIDS. And a friend here called, the Morehouse brothers, said, Chris, you got to get involved. I was pastoring 16th Street, said, you got to get involved and do more than what you're doing. And sat down and we talked and said, okay, what is it that I need to do? So I joined AIDS Alabama's board and just saw what really was happening in our community and in the nation as it relates to HIV and infection rates going up in the African American community. And again, my 2 friends had died. Neither one of them told me that they had HIV. Neither one.
Yeah.
And,
wow.
And I knew, because you hear through the grapevine what's going on, and just said, okay, Lord, I hear you. So joined AIDS Alabama's board for several years, served as their president. Then got a call from Dr. Michael Sagg at UAB's 1917 clinic while I was at UAB in the provost's office, asking if I would consider coming over to the 1917 clinic as the second full-time chaplain. Malcolm Marler was there a few years ahead of me, and Malcolm and I sat down and talked to try to figure out what it is that they were asking me to do. So it was to become more of like an agent in the community as a pastor, working with pastors in the African-American community to get them to do more about HIV than what we were doing. So again, that door opened, and that was another opportunity for me to become used by God, and I think in a very unique way, to talk about a disease that was ravishing the African-American community.
Wow, that is amazing. That is amazing. And I'm just sitting here just thinking about you didn't want anything to do with pastoral ministry for a minute, and how God just opened these doors, and you were like, okay, great, I'll do it, because you knew that was your call. We're going to take a break. You've been listening to Unleashed with Eva Melton. We'll catch you on the other side. Welcome back to Unleashed with Eva Melton. I want to remind you that this episode is sponsored by Clifford Melton of Keller Williams Realty. So if you're looking to buy, sell a property, check out cliffordmelton.com and get you a realtor that can help you move into the next phase of life. I am in the studio today with the pastor of Tabernacle Baptist Church and all of these other roles that he plays in the community, as we've heard, Reverend Chris Hamlin. And so I want you to remind our listeners how they can find out more about you online.
Easy. Best way to do it is just Google Christopher M. Hamlin. There are several other Christopher M. Hamlins around, but I'm the one at Tabernacle Baptist Church. I'm not the dentist. I'm not in South Bend, Indiana. I'm the one in Birmingham, Alabama.
Yes, and so Tabernacle is located in the Smithfield Community, 600
right?
600
Center Street North, right? Our property buttress Legion Field.
Awesome. So, yeah, beautiful congregation, beautiful facility. So you guys should check it out one Sunday. So we were just talking to Rev Hamlin about his divine purpose and how that expressed itself, talking about his life journey, his life path. I wanted to catch, so you told us that you went to Morehouse. That was undergrad?
That was undergrad.
Okay. And what was how did your education progress from there?
Graduated from Morehouse in 1981, and I intentionally, Morehouse was the only college I wanted to go to. In the heart of AU Center, part of Atlanta University Center, majority African-American community. That's what I wanted. For seminary, I wanted a different experience. I wanted a northern, more liberal experience. So I chose Colgate-Rochester Divinity School in Rochester, New York. You can't get more liberal than Colgate. And it was 3 of the best years of my life. Again, because the interaction with other persons from around the country, and it just wasn't liberal. We had conservatives there. We even had a Southern Baptist who was a part of my class, Ernie. And so it was just a wonderful experience with some passionate professors who loved the Lord, but whose goal was to teach us and to impart their wisdom unto us and make sure we got what we needed to become functional pastors and compassionate pastors wherever God sent us out into the community. So was there 3 years, finished there 84, then served a congregation in Pontiac, Michigan, Trinity Baptist Church for 5.5 years as an assistant to the pastor, and then came to Birmingham in 1990. January 7th, 1990. Remember the
January 7th is my dad's birthday, so I remember that. So didn't Colgate just get a new president?
Just got a new president last week.
Yes.
Last week. First female, first African-American president of Colgate. So they're and like most seminaries now, making a lot of changes because, one, seminary is not the most attracting place for professional academic education. So it's making a lot of change, but I'm praying that this will be a good, positive change for them.
That's awesome. So one of the questions I wanted to ask you, because it's something that I observed, typically what you find is some pastors, they tend to like to lean into the local church, and so they're connected to their members, and that is just kind of part of their life, but they try to keep so separate from community. And I kind of see you connected very strongly to Smithfield. You know, what drives that part of you?
One, Smithfield is historic, and I think that's a part of my background is really as a historian and understanding movements. So Smithfield is a historic community in Birmingham, right in the heart of that community. Although this is Tabernacle's second home, we were originally at 25th Street North, came to Smithfield in 1968. But when you look at Smithfield, it really is, and this is one of the aspects of our ministry that when I went there, I did not see happening. But as evolution of time is beginning to happen, Smithfield is in the middle of a food desert.
Oh, wow.
There's not a credible shopping center, grocery center where persons can get fresh produce at reasonable cost. You have a couple of little mom and pop stores there, and of course they're that may not be controlled by people who look like us, and the prices are somewhat exorbitant. So some of the things that we have begun to do is partner with the Community Food Bank and the Weekend Backpack Project, will provide 25 meals to families, not in Smithfield, but in Eastlake at a school. I won't name the school.
Okay.
Where every Friday, 25 families get food to take home over the weekend.
Wow.
Because typically when families leave school, poor and poverty-laden people, they don't have food over the weekend.
That's right.
And if they're on free or reduced meals, I guess now mostly meals that are free at school, they're taken care of Monday through Friday. But over the weekend, there's nothing for many families until they get back to school on Monday. So we provide 25 meals to families there. Then we do Meals on Wheels on Wednesdays in Smithfield, about 16 families, and that was a partnership with 6 congregations in Smithfield and College Hill, and we've been doing that for about 15 years now, where every day during the week, a congregation is delivering food through Meals on Wheels, and our day is Wednesday, and volunteers deliver food to those families or to those individuals, and again, that's nutrition.
Wow.
And we also do, during Christmas holidays, 125 Christmas baskets to persons who live in Smithfield. We're now engaged in a conversation with a neighborhood partner about developing a fresh produce market on our property that will probably start in the first week in June, where we have fresh produce in a farmer's market where people in Smithfield can come get fresh produce from, hopefully, majority would be from African-American farmers in Birmingham and surrounding areas. And again, because there's nothing credible in Smithfield where they can get fresh produce, we have to bring it in. Yeah,
you guys are doing the work. You know, so many times when we talk about things like food deserts, some of the social justice issues, some people just like, this is separate, that's over there, this is over here. What drives you to create ministry and kind of, because ultimately pastors set the vision. So I know a lot of this is just not randomly happening. So how do you communicate this message? What drives that part of you to help you just say, you know what, y'all, we are in Smithfield, there's a food desert, we know it. How do we get involved in this for the sake of this community?
I think pastors have to look beyond their congregation, see what others are doing, hear conversations in the broader, wider community, and focus on, A.G. Gadsden's motto was, find a need and fill it.
Yes.
And if there's a need where persons in the community are not getting nutritional food, that's a major need.
Wow.
It stunts growth. It stunts a person's ability to learn, especially young people. So if there's a need, and the need is not being met in other sources, the church has to meet that need.
That's right.
So, I mean, it was just logical for us. This is neat. And then we have our own food pantry, and we see people coming from Smithfield knocking on the door, asking for, some groceries. And I mean, it's just a legitimate need. And if the knock continues, you got to do more than just answer the door. You got to look at systemically, how can we change and make changes? And also, I think you have to push government and other partners to say, okay, we need a major grocery store here in this community, because persons have to get on transportation, go wherever they have to go. Some of them don't have transportation, may not rely on MAX, other means of transportation, so they're left with limited choices in terms of where they can buy food.
This is why I love you. I knew there was a reason why, I was like, I look up to Rev Hamlin, but everybody doesn't think that way, and it really matters when you start talking about trying to do work across the city of knowing who thinks in a certain type of way versus, because you can get people in the room and they can just think you talking about wild stuff about being out in a school somewhere. So, we do kind of yesterday, Attorney Richard Rice came into, we have like 10 mentees in a particular school. Like I said, I won't name the school, but he came out and talked to them. It's Fair Housing Month.
Right.
April is Fair Housing Month, and he came out and talked to them about fair housing and discrimination. And they're third graders, but discrimination was a new word for them. They knew concepts of it, but they didn't know the word. And so we talked about how discrimination kind of expresses itself, especially in housing, but really just getting them to hone in and put a word with some of the things that they already see.
Yeah. And we're sandwiched between two housing communities. You have Elington on one side, Smithfield on the other. And unfortunately, it's generational. You have multi-generations living in these communities. And not saying that they're bad communities,
right.
but that's the reality that they are facing. And in those two communities, you see needs that need to be met. And again, I think the church's responsibility. If we can meet the need, we meet the need.
Right.
But you have to address the systemic issue. What is causing this? Why is this happening? And how can we begin to address those systemic issues so that this does not happen?
Exactly. And so I think the church plays a large role in helping raise consciousness, because you can't really change something if people are really kind of blind to what is happening in these issues and how it has progressed over time. So I just grateful to just hear all of that to you. So there's a particular scripture I want to quote to you, and I just want to see what, your immediate response to it is. God said to Jeremiah that before you were formed in your mother's womb, I knew you. What does that mean to you?
Oh, gosh. if God genuinely knows all things and at the old folk in my home church that knows all about us, then God knows. And because God knows, then that for me, it means I need to put my absolute trust in God, the God who knows me better than I know myself, and trust where God is leading me. And I can attest to of all of my multiple experiences of living in Birmingham now almost 29 years, that God has not misdirected a step that I have made. I have made some missteps. But God has not made any missteps for me. And if I follow God's path, like David says in 23rd Psalm, it does lead to greener pastures and calmer waters. And that's really is my testimony, that I know God knows me, and God has a purpose for my life. And my job is to figure out what that purpose is. And once I know and affirm what that purpose is, I need to make sure that I'm doing it.
That is beautiful. Well, we have been in the studio today with the Reverend Dr. Christopher Hamlin of Tabernacle Baptist Church in various roles that he plays in the Smithfield and in the greater Birmingham area. You've been listening to Unleashed with Eva Melton. We'll catch you next Sunday right here on 101.1.
Thanks for listening to Unleashed with Eva. I hope you were inspired, encouraged, and motivated to tackle a new week. For more information about the show, check out www.evamelton.com.